school board meeting, which we're doing a facilities forum. And I think what I'd like to do is start with the Pledge of Allegiance. All rise. Thank you. And I will start with introductions. You two want to start, that's fine.
All right, Lynn Lenhart.
Diane Seaver.
Matt Downey.
Kate Navarro.
Charmaine Widgesinger.
Tom Douglas.
He's up there. He's going to be sitting up there so he can work PowerPoint. Just a couple of things I want to go over before we start this. I think I'm just going to read it so I don't mess it up. But we're going to ask that the speakers state their names in relationship to the district, whether they're a parent, a staff member. That the speaker take no longer than 1 to 2 minutes to ask, 1 or 2 minutes to talk, and then I'm not sure what that says. We turned the lights off, so it's hard to read this because it was shining bright on us. But just, so we hear what your comments are. That those in attendance provide the courtesy of allowing a member of the public the opportunity to state to the board an opinion, even if it's contrary to their own, without interruption. And that all members of the public in attendance shall be given the opportunity to address the board before any individual is allowed to do so a second time. Which doesn't seem like there's many people here tonight, but I know that Bill is going to try and keep track of time to keep it under 2 minutes, so he has like a little yellow thing that says 1 minute, and then a red that says like 15 seconds. And then I know sometimes we get like a lot of applauding or a lot of things going on. If we could stop that so everybody can just really have a turn to talk, that would be great. And then the one thing I didn't tell you is Mike Cooper is out tonight, wasn't able to come. The board discussed last week at the board meeting that we would just be taking comments tonight. We're not going to be discussing anything. If there needs to be clarification, that will come from one of our administrations, like either Judy, Tom, or they might ask somebody else to speak on it for clarification. With that, we'd like people to come up and. Oh, Tom's got to do I'm sorry.
Just a slight presentation. Nick, can you just double check? Because I think the squealing's coming from mine. Some squealing's coming from mine, feedback. Ladies and gentlemen, members of the board, thank you for coming out tonight. This is a third evening of community forums where we have tried to make sure our process is opening up to the community as we develop. And you'll see 3 screens. We won't need all 3 of them for the forum presentation. It will actually be on our screen to stage right. However, in a couple minutes when we actually show some of the cost breakdowns that you can also talk about this evening, we will utilize all 3 screens. So as you make any comments, please address which screen we are looking at. The board also has the handouts in front of them as well, and they go back in order. For the first 3 pages will be this screen. The second, or the technologies, will be the middle screen, and then anything with grounds or the turf synthetic options that are in there will be on the 3rd screen. And additionally, ladies and gentlemen, we have put these up. They've been on our website, and the format that you've received has been updated as late as to this afternoon, and the reason being is we also had an energy performance contract presentation tonight, and that also has some information that will be new and we'll be posting to the web as well. So if you want a hard copy, they are out in the foyer, but they will also be available via the PDF format on the web. So thank you again for coming out. Tonight, as we start our presentation, we wanted to recap the process so far. And this process really did not just start about 6 weeks ago. It actually started really before I became the superintendent here with what's known as a building conditional survey, which is required by New York State. And that started around June of 2011. They actually performed it throughout the 2010 year, and they were obligated to file that by January of 2011 with the state. And that's what's listed, some of the priorities that you see on our first page, or what's under the title of O&M, or Operations and Maintenance. Throughout that process, the district's been dealing with the financial challenges, just like everyone across New York State. However, they could not address the issues at that time. As each year goes by, the district still is required to consider addressing those issues in that BCS. What happened was my first visit officially to the district was on December 7th, 2011, and that night I was treated also to hearing by Director Nolte over here, who will be operating our mic to the left, his review of the facilities and the conditions for operation and maintenance. So that was another part of this process that sort of slowly has been building to where we are today. Additionally, in December, the board, as well as in January and February, members of the community started to approach the board in regards to considering some options with our athletic fields. Obviously, with both the hurricanes coming through, the wet conditions, that created a certain amount of discontent, but also it raised issues that are plaguing the field. Even without the torrential rains, drainage has become an issue. But this community group came forward and they talked to the board throughout December, January, and February. In January, you know, the board had presentations on the athletic programs, as well as some of the difficulties in rescheduling games, as well as having adequate playing facilities to move forward. That's sort of one piece of really what we're talking about this evening. Additionally, the process now has sort of taken more of a faster pace, where in September, the board, as well as the administration, wanted to engage the community about the lagging conditions or the deferred conditions of the school district. And with that, we had to bring the BCS out and start to discuss that. Since that discussion, we've had Board of Education meetings on the 19th. We've had a second community forum on October 1st, and we have readily been trying to answer the questions that have arisen from each of those forums, as well as the discussions that have happened during open board meetings. Each night of our board meetings, there has been discussion on this overall issue, not any one facet of it, but how to engage the community and have this to be about a community-driven concept, project, and for the longevity of Bethlehem Central. So those are the meetings that have taken place, leading to the culmination of tonight, which is more of a public hearing to hear from the community, because before it was about gathering questions and answers, getting answers, giving some answers, hearing some more, finding out other concerns. Going over the biggest question was always the financials, and we'll hit that briefly. So here we are tonight on October 18th at this community forum. Why do we need to spend more? That's one of our slides that we've used before. Assets can only last so long. Just like you have a home and you have yearly upkeep and maintenance issues, imagine your home being about 2,000 square feet and a school district being over 1 million square feet. That's about 5,000 times the amount of deferment issues that the school would have to address if they are not taking care of those maintenance issues year to year. As you can see, we have pictures on the website. We just highlighted one. With the high uses, despite ongoing maintenance, we'll eventually need to, you know, repair or retire some of our facility options, such as whether it's roofs, whether it's repairing the middle school facade, which is considerably crumbling. We've got it to a point that it's safe, but those are issues that are ongoing that the district always has to look at, just like our roofs and other internal aspects of our building envelopes. In addition, oh, they went wrong way. One of the things that we were asked were needs versus wants, because there are some needs and there are some wants in this. Since our first discussion, there have been some more items that have been identified. We don't necessarily have the prices on all of those yet, but what we're trying to do is build it and build it in the open public format. We have our 5-year capital facility plan, which identifies needs on a 1 to 3 I think it's a 3 to about 7 and 5 to 10 year scope, which means there are some that are more urgent than others. But the question is, should we address all of it so that we no longer face the situation for the district deferring, and allowing the cost of repairs to continue to climb until ultimately we have to repair it no matter what, and it's at the highest price where we could have possibly addressed it earlier and reduced some of our costs in the long run. In addition, there are technology requests that we have presented, and this is different, and this is one of the misnomers from the technology issues before I was here. That was a different concept. These technology issues are about infrastructure and how we will address the new regulations that the state requires all districts to get to over the next couple of years for online assessments and the ability for our district to report the information to the state. Districts across the state are going to be facing this issue. We're at a point that if we're doing this, we might want to look at this and address it beforehand and be a little proactive. In addition, we also have some of the community requests, things that could benefit not only the school and the education components, but also the greater Bethlehem community, which is town of New Scotland and town of Bethlehem. All of these sort of culminate into some needs and wants in the overall project. One of the things at our last building meeting or community meeting was the fact that finances were the biggest driving question out there. And what Mrs. Kehoe put up on that night for the presentation was a sample building aid calculation. And there's been some speculation, well, you didn't get 60% in this project, you didn't do this. I can only tell you that our state aid ratio right now with incentive aid is 70.1%. We have to use that because that's what the state will use, and we're required to use that calculation. The real question is, how do you build a project that maximizes so that you do get that 70% aid and it's not reduced? Well, that's really what we look to our architects, our fiscal advisors, to make sure that they generate a project that will bill out at the highest aid ratio, which for us is around 70.1. Here, we tried to take sort of certain assumptions at 95% aidability for all of our projects. In other words, they meet an aidable ratio by the state, so that that amount of the project would then be factored into the 70% aid ratio. Here, when you look at it, this is assuming a 20-year loan at 5% interest. Now, depending when you go out, these numbers can change a little because the interest rates are less than 5% potentially at this point, as well as whether it's a 15 or a 20-year contribution length for a loan. But assuming this with all the ability that we have right now to be able to predict the cost on a $5 million project, a $10 million project, and a $15 million project, we took an average $250,000 home in Delmar, and for a $5 million project, if it billed out as we've represented here, it would roughly be for the next 20 years, $12 additional per year on $250,000 of home value. If it was a $10 million project, it would be $24 per year for 20 years on a $250,000 home. And then it's extrapolated out with 15 million, and that would be $36 per year. Now, somewhere in the mix, the reason why we use these numbers is the total accumulation of the projects ranged in those areas. And that's including any possibility of a synthetic field as well, along with our operation and maintenance and technology costs. Additionally, facility needs ranking list. That's one of the items that has come up, and we've put that online. We actually sent out an SNN the other day, but we also wanted to add a little clarity to it, because when you start looking at especially certain items, you may get lost a little in, well, how come it costs this much? Does it cost more here for the same item? So we wanted to clarify. So we have a new list tonight that we will show you, and it will be up as well on the website, and that was the list out in the foyer. So tonight we wanted to update the list for the facilities, the technology, and where we updated it is there's one sheet that says basic grounds work. Those are, I think, playgrounds, fixing the drainage at the baseball field, and I think a couple bleachers. That the district these are more some of the needs that are out there because of some of the wearing infrastructure. That would be something that is separate as you look at it from any of the talk or discussion on the pricing of any athletic field renovation. Then what we have is we have three options, and it's option A, which is we only take care of the issues that are with the field: drainage, lighting, bleacher, track, tennis courts. There's a cost for that. But the question is okay, how much does it cost different to go to the next type of field? That's why we separate it. So option B, if you didn't do option A and you did option B would still take care of the drainage, still take care of the lights, still take care of the track, and then it adds in the turf and it also upgrades the track from 6 lanes to 8. And then option C is basically taking care of option A as well as improving upon option B by having a larger track facility to house a field that allows every single sport to be able to compete on the field without any limitations of their minimum dimensions for their field. And that allows you to see the differences between each of the types of options. Please understand that no matter what, if it ever came down to selecting, it's really selecting one of those options, and there you will get the cost differential. Public comment has already been addressed, I think, by our president, but just to remind you, speakers' names and relationships, and as long as, if you have a child that's going here, we're proud that you have a child, but we're also proud of our residents that have always supported that do not currently have children going to our school. So please help us get to know you better. Also, the speakers, if possible, right now, 1 to 2 minutes. Those in attendance, as always, in Bethlehem, providing the courtesy so that everyone's fully heard. And then also, we want to give everybody the chance to at least be heard once, then twice, and then a third time if necessary, so that everybody has a chance and no time is monopolized at the mic and people are sort of pushed away. So if we can ask you to extend those courtesies, we feel that the night will go relatively smoothly, and we appreciate you coming out. If you bear with me for a minute, it didn't work. And the reason why is I just want to transition. That's one. There, I think I have all three. What I'm showing you right now are really the spreadsheets that were out there earlier. And on this screen over here, I'm going to make sure that I keep operation and maintenance, which you already have seen. On the middle screen, I'm going to put technology, which the good part is that fits all on one screen. And over here on the third will be the grounds part. Now, just so that you know, the grounds part has a couple pieces, a couple different screens, so I may have to switch between. But here would be one of the screens. This is the base. It's about $350,000. If you chose option A, which if the board ever selected option A, this would take care of drainage, lighting, resurfacing the track, the general upkeep right now to keep the current situation, but also to make sure that we address the issues that have been plaguing the district. That's about $1.12 million. And these, again, all numbers are rough estimates until we have the architects that we bring on for this project really do the full scope and measure and get us the accurate numbers, because a lot of these numbers are from 2 years ago, because that was when they were developed. Option B, as it states, is using the existing field, utilizing that footprint and converting the 6-lane track to an 8-lane track, and then installing synthetic surface on it as well, and taking care of drainage, light, and all the issues that have been identified is roughly $2.6 million. So you can see there's a difference between A and B. And then option C, which is developing a new 225-foot synthetic field with an 8-lane track. The difference between option B and option C is right now currently the maximum field that you can get on the stadium at this point is 195 feet. Even if you covered and used that footprint for a new field that's synthetic within that existing footprint, it would still only be 195 feet. Some of our sports, lacrosse as well as soccer, and I'm not sure about field hockey just because I don't know the dimensions, but they require usually a standard measurement that's larger than the 195 foot area. 225 is the maximum area. This field would allow any competition to take place out there with the normal dynamics and dimensions of their sport. So that's how it's all set up tonight. Because you've had this list, at least in general, that's where you can draw some questions of. If the board would like, I would like to ask the board real quick because of the energy performance contracting, would you like to see what has been identified from last night? And for the audience, energy performance contracting was presented at last night's board meeting. And what that is that's an opportunity for the district to be able to use a specialized incentive program under New York State law that allows us to identify energy projects that could be done by the board and the district that would recover enough energy that they pay for the project and also provide additional savings to the district. Virtually, the project is guaranteed by the state, by the service providers, and they must guarantee it, and the district would have some financial benefits to that, and the project would be tax-free on the local community tax base. So that's one of the reasons why we wanted to identify this tonight. Right now, on all three of these, I think the total is somewhere around 14.5 to 15 million, just roughly. The energy performance contracting is every item that's identified in yellow. And if you'll just bear with me for a second. Now all the yellow has been identified up here. So everything that initially, on a quick look, that's yellow, could potentially be pulled out of any project that we're doing. And as you can see up here, that would be in the amount of roughly, with the numbers that we have at this time, of $4.5 million. So in other words, if just, let's use round numbers. If we had a $15 million project that consisted of these as well as the others, even with the turf, and I used the turf at the highest amount, we would be able to have a project of roughly, say, around $10.5 million, but yet still get the benefits for the district of a project of $15 million, and potentially get some monetary savings back because of the savings that you generate from the energy consumption reduction, as well as the additional state aid that can be presented because you get building aid on this endeavor as well. So that could be something that could be aiding our budgets in the future. Additionally, on an energy performance contract, like we mentioned last night, I know the board is aware of this, the board officially by law has the right to do that work without voter approval at any time because it's really a lease and there's no payment and it comes from our budget that ends up recycling itself year in, year out. We are allowed to get 60% building aid if the board automatically does that. One of the discussions we had last night with the board is there's also a part of the state law that says if we put it out to the voters as well for an additional approval, and if the voters said on the energy performance contract, hey, it's no tax impact, the board's putting it up, they could do it if they wanted to, but they're putting it up anyways, and they're putting it up so that they get the community to hopefully approve it, they will also get an additional 10% incentive aid. On a $4.5 million, that could be an additional $450,000 incentive above and beyond the 60%. Here's the thing, sounds too good to be true. Board asked those questions as well last night, but they are also going to research this next week at the New York State School Boards Association, and it is something that's very much a viable consideration because it's trying to do what is financially sound for the district and trying to put Bethlehem in the best position going forward. The hardest part about tonight, and we're going to open the mics up, is that people will say no matter what, if you do a project, the money's coming from somewhere. Part of it will come from the local tax base. We showed you those figures. The other part, that's the right pocket from the local tax base. No matter what, the left pocket gives into the state. Everything that you do, buy, purchase, goes into the state coffer. And no matter what, that left pocket is funding projects like this all over the state every year. It would be unwise as your superintendent to not try, even though we might have to spend some money, to hopefully get some of that money to come back to Bethlehem. Shenendehowa is putting up a $10 million project. Yes, their tax base is going to support some of it. But so is Bethlehem going to support Shen. Bethlehem's supporting Niskayuna. Just like when the $93 million project was done here, the other districts or the other communities across the state supported for Bethlehem. It's trying to find the right balance. And that's what this evening and that's what this process has been about. Engaging our community. The board has been here listening, and they really want to hear from you. So at this time, I have this, and we can work on that as we go throughout if we need to do any clarifications. But this is what the board will use going forward, probably over the next couple of months, as well as everything we've garnered over the past couple of months from you. So again, we want to thank you for coming out, and I'll turn it over to Diane.
Okay. And then I also forgot that we are being videotaped, and also Jody's over there, and she's taking online comments, right? Okay, and I kind of went out of order because I couldn't see the agenda, so sorry I almost bypassed you,
No
Tom. So I guess we can just start with people coming up. Don't be shy.
Hi, my name's Judy Abbott, and I am a parent. It's making a lot of noise here. I'm just looking to see if there's anything else. Okay. And I just wanted to mention, I thank you guys all for giving us all this information and giving the public a lot of opportunities to be heard and for you to listen to us. I certainly feel like our school district has had a lot. It's a great school district. We have great facilities. I don't think we have. I'm not embarrassed at all by our facilities. I also think that. What was that? Sorry. Bad juju.
It's an upgrade to the sound system part of this.
Am I back on? Okay, I think we have great facilities, and I think we ought to take care of what we have. We've had a lot of bad cuts the last few years. Our budgets have been tough. We've lost over 100 FTEs positions, and I really don't want the school district to take on too much right now. I would support bonds that include, thank you, that are for building needs and facility needs. If we need drainage and such at the fields, go ahead and do it. I do not support synthetic turf at this time. I feel very strongly about that. I also think there's a lot of risks for synthetic turf that aren't really being adequately weighed. And I'm also aware that for the 2003 bond, the district did an internal cost-benefit analysis for the varsity soccer field when you considered synthetic turf. And you decided not to do that. The school district decided not to go with synthetic turf because the benefits didn't outweigh the costs. I would expect an unbiased approach to that again, if you feel like doing that. And finally, I think we ought to support our existing facilities, but I do want to say, Ms. Stever, I know your brother is one of the biggest proponents. I feel strongly that maybe you ought to be backed off, you ought to recuse yourself from this decision. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Brian McKenna. I'm a parent of 2 children in the district, a sophomore and a senior. I think I have equally strong opinions and feelings for the board. I do not believe that any of you should recuse yourself from this discussion of the process. I believe that you're here representing your beliefs, your family, the people of your community, your neighbors, the people who voted you into office. And to back out because you're close to an issue defeats the very purpose of electing you. Secondly, I look at 3 different factors. One is a parent of 2 children who would not be here to personally enjoy and benefit from the synthetic turf, for example, by the time these things were done. I'm not speaking selfishly for their benefits. Number 2, as a former educator, I taught here years ago, school principal for years, worked in colleges for a while. I believe strongly that, and what I heard the first day of classes, I'm sorry, the open house night, the principal, thank you, the principal referenced a few times that this is the best school district and best high school in our area. I think when we make that claim, we have to support the entire school district, the entire program. I think our teachers have done a great job over the years for our kids. But when I drive by years ago and watch 50, 60, 70 children showing up for modified football practice, what I'm seeing is a commitment on those kids' parts and their family to support them, to be involved in healthy, athletic environments and activities that are keeping them from being home, unsupervised, and in bigger problems that we have to pay more for later when we didn't because we pinched pennies to cut programs that help kids. Thank you. Finally, right now what I do is I manage about 100 real estate agents. Tomorrow we have a group going down to Fishkill to the Global Foundries plant down there. We have people working with Nanotech. We have people working with Relo through Prudential. It's huge. Let me tell you that parents all over the communities, parents and people coming into this area, and I know I'm done, who are coming in are looking at facilities and opportunities for their children and their families. I think we have to not look to pinch pennies now. I think we have to invest. Thanks.
Hi, my name's Jeff Brown. I'm a parent of 2 seniors at the high school and an alumnus. I also had a question about the 2003 bond vote, if in fact a synthetic field was considered for the soccer field, and if it was rejected, I'd like to know if that's accurate. I also have a question for Judy Kehoe. People have mentioned that we could possibly realize some revenue from such a field, and I'd like to know if we do currently rent athletic facilities, and if we do so, do we realize a profit, or do we simply cover our costs and not realize a profit? I have a clarification on questions regarding financial questions regarding a possible synthetic turf playing field. Question 1 says the field can be used in any temperature. The research I have conducted says that that's not true, that outside ambient temperature as low as 87 degrees will create a temperature so high at the surface level of that football field that it is not suggested to be used at that time. Even watering the field will not bring that temperature down for any period of time, so I don't think it's accurate to say it could be used in any temperature, according to the research I've found. Dr. Douglas has said a couple times about the left pocket will be going somewhere in the state to pay for facilities. The analogy I used at the second forum is that when I go to a all-you-can-eat buffet, just because there's food there doesn't mean I'm going to eat as much as I possibly can. I'm not going to put breadsticks in my pockets. Just because the food is there, just because the money's there, I don't know that that is a reason to seek out that money. Thank you very much.
I'm just waiting for it to come on. Is this on there? Okay. In regards to your first question, I'm just trying to recall it real quick because there's a 4. Okay, soccer field 2003, I think Ms. Abbott also addressed that question. One of the things, seeing how I wasn't here in that point, I have found out that there was some type of a comparable study, and that study was done by the district's architect. And what that really was, a study, was not necessarily just about whether or not it would be wise for synthetic turf. And we are going to post this online. We've got it. We just got to get it in the PDF format. But it was really a question, from the way I understand it, is at that time, there was a certain amount of money. And one of the issues for the district was they lacked appropriate field space. And the question was, is it more appropriate to have a turf, one field that you could use a lot more, versus I think it was about 3 additional fields being constructed. I believe, if I'm not wrong, the architect ended up recommending to the district that you may not have enough money to do the artificial turf and only have 1 field done versus doing the 3 fields and having the access of all 3 of those fields. And that's what the assessment, I believe, was for, not necessarily natural turf, good, bad. Just because you said about the left pocket and right pocket, unfortunately, there are people that go to that buffet and will put that stuff in their pockets. You may not, I may not, but there are. But unfortunately, I can tell you right now there's at least 13 or 14 different projects across the state being planned, and probably they have usually good approval ratings, even in the difficult fiscal times that are going on right now, that money, there's a certain amount, and that's why state ed plans its projects. That's one of the realities, and I can understand that, but if we have to repair some of our facilities, we have to look at some of that, and I think you understand that. Judy, if you could discuss, I think, the other part.
The district does have a schedule of revenues that we charge for any outside groups that are using our facilities. Recognizing that many of those groups are members of the community, the fees are structured merely to cover our costs and not to generate significant profits from those rentals.
And just to add for the rentals, recent question, because we put it out to someone that has just put in a field, which is Schenectady. Schenectady, from what we have been informed over the past 4 to 4.5 to 5 years, have garnered in usage of fees of their field specifically up to $300,000. And their athletic director as well has verified that as well. That's one of the ways that they're planning for down the road, how they take care of their field as well as other issues. But it doesn't mean that that's going to always be the case at every district, but that's one of the options that are out there. Honestly, I don't have that answer, but we'll explore it. Yeah.
Hello, thank you. My name is John Demers. I'm a parent of 2 kids in the district, and I appreciate you letting us have this opportunity to talk. My issue is both of my kids will be out of school by the time a turf field will come about. I think if we look at a turf field, I think we should probably look at it for its maximum use, so that you don't look at a one-dimensional field that's only good for one sport. You look at a field that's good for multiple sports. And I think if you looked at the overall cost to the district, the taxpayers of the district, it's fairly insignificant in the total per year cost to them. But my main concern really is about the safety for the kids in the current school, the field's condition. My son is, he plays JV. A couple of weeks ago in a JV game, one of the players dislocated his knee. And I don't know if that had anything to do with the condition of the field. The players play with longer spikes. The field is terrible condition. They have longer spikes, and I think they're more apt to be prone to injury on a poor field like this. I know there are injuries associated with turf fields, but I think that's a pretty devastating injury to a kid sophomore in high school. And I think we really have to look at what the benefits and costs are versus what the safety is to our kids. I think safety is very important. Thank you. One other question, follow-up. In a survey that went out, there was a mention that the governor was considering not reimbursing for synthetic fields in the future. And if that's the case, I'd like you to fill us in on that. Thank you.
Have to make sure this thing stays somewhat attached. One of the things is 2 years ago, the governor proposed to take what's, I hate to call it this, but this is what it's called across the state, the golden turf rule, out of the budget process or the aidability process. That pretty much, because it does have some economic indicators, because if you're not building, some people are not going to work, that sort of did not survive his first budget. So the second budget that we saw, it was not in. We don't know what's going to happen with that in the future. However, we do know that if a project is approved before the budget is approved, And you can also write a resolution that says if the aid's not there and the full cost is going to be borne, the board has options at that point as well. Those are options available to the district. But one of the things that's most important is if you do have a project that's been approved and you have that from state ed, they have to follow through on that commitment. It's a timing issue too. Now, will it come up in the next budget round? We do not know. It did not come up last year. You know, I don't have a crystal ball. If we were doing this, I would hope that it wouldn't come up. It's come up several times in years past with many governors, but it's always been overturned because it's not really a major issue because it's a very small portion of their reimbursables.
Hello, my name's Chuck Class. I have 3 boys. 2 have already gone through the district, K through 12, and I have a current junior in the school district. All of them were athletes, okay? But none of my boys are going to benefit, okay, from these upgrades, should they go through. But I stand here as a parent and as a member of the community, and if we look to the future of our community and our facilities, this has to be done. It's obvious as we have bricks falling off the middle school that we need to upgrade and do these repairs. We can stand here and argue about the why wasn't it done this time, why wasn't it done in this budget. That's neither here nor there. We are where we are right now, and we have to deal with it. As far as the athletics portion of it, obviously I am a huge supporter of the athletic upgrades. We could stand here all night and argue about studies. For every study, I can find another study that would contradict that study, okay? The ones I've looked into, safety, there's no question that synthetic fields are more safer than turf fields, okay? I would encourage the board to do their homework in the future, go through those studies. I'm sure you'll concur. 3 home games ago, our starting quarterback tore his ACL, slipping on the mud as he went out of bounds, okay? Hardly any contact, slipped in the mud. That, to me, shouldn't have happened. That is an injury that shouldn't happen. Injuries happen in sports, but that shouldn't have happened. That was an injury that was uncalled for. As far as the cost, listen, we're investing. We're going to be spending money in this community, not just for the schools, but for our property taxes forever, okay? We just got to get used to it. Costs go up every year. We're going to have to deal with it. I think we're investing in our community, and it's important to invest in our community, and we should go for the whole thing, too. We shouldn't cut corners. Let's just be proactive. Let's look to the future, and let's do what's right for the community. Thank you.
Hi, my name's John Sika. I also have a couple of girls that went through the Bethlehem program and had a great experience here. And I have a son who will also be graduated before any of this is completed. I think it's a great opportunity. It's great that the board and the community has recognized the opportunity we have to get a significant amount of funding for these objectives. I'm not well versed in a lot of the details, but when I did learn that we were supporting 70% of the cost of athletic facilities in a lot more rural communities and different facilities, that I wondered how they afforded the great facilities out there. I was really happy to see that we got on board with this, and at least are having a forum and addressing it while the opportunity is there, because the salad bar may shut down at some point, and nobody really knows when that'll happen. I had no problem with our facilities either until I traveled around with my kids to a lot of schools, and I was amazed at the facilities that some of these schools have. And obviously, it's a timing issue. It's when this district came into being and when the maintenance got done. But some of the facilities out there are it's a big difference from what's here. So it's a subjective criteria, and I guess what that leads me to is we've got some safety issues we've talked about that the facilities manager is giving us recommendations on, and we've got some technology issues that the IT director is giving us some recommendations on. Who is speaking for the athletics department and giving us recommendations? And have they gone to other communities? Have they evaluated? Obviously, turf fields are going in other places. So who is speaking? Is it the community speaking, or is there someone representing the athletes and the kids in this community?
Good evening. My name is Steve Morelli, also a parent of 2 students at the high school and an additional student of the middle school. And I wanted to just maybe play off of some of the comments of the speaker that spoke to my left. I'm a lifelong resident of the Capital District and about a 12-year resident of Bethlehem. And just being in this community, I think it's always been viewed as one of the better places to live in the Capital District, a very appealing community that gets a lot of attention. And I think a big driving factor, I'm not sure anybody here can disagree with, is the fact that we do have a wonderful school system. Certainly was a primary reason that I relocated to this district 12 years ago. I think we've differentiated ourselves and have maintained extremely high academic standards. But in this day and age, quite honestly, and I've also done some traveling around in the area and seen some of the other facilities and so forth, I think you have to really look at the entire package. I think families, students are looking not just for the academics, which I know that they can get here, but I think they're also looking and shopping for, again, the total package. And I think we view ourselves today as best in class, as was mentioned by one of the previous speakers. But again, I think you have to bring the entire package to kind of be able to claim that best in class status. So I'm fully supportive and would also encourage us to go and do this the right way and not piecemeal. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Dave Kavanaugh. I'm a resident here. I have 2 girls in high school, one a sophomore, one a senior, and a son who is in his 3rd year of college, came through Bethlehem. I'm for this project. I think that success breeds success, not only in academics, but also in other areas. We should be very proud here in Bethlehem. We've got a great school district. It's why I moved here. I concur with Mr. Morelli. I grew up in the Albany area, but I moved to Bethlehem because of this school district. You may recall when the Enclave was built down south of Haswell Farms. You know, you had the same house. One was in the Bethlehem School District, one was in RCS. And I'm not slandering any other school district, but those same houses were $40,000, $50,000 different because people paid to get into this system. And that's important. And if you have success in academics, I'm very proud. I pick up that Times Union, I read that academics report card. I see that 98% of our seniors graduate. I'm very proud of that. But you know, academics is only one part of this. I'm for the sports updates, the sports improvements, including the synthetic field. My daughter played field hockey this year as a senior. Field is a mess at times. That ball bounces up and down. If you had a synthetic field, it's just a much nicer play. And you know, other schools come here, and we want to be proud of this place. You know, this is our home. This is a school that we want to be really proud of. And when you go to other facilities, as some of the other dads and moms have said, you know, they've got top notch. We don't. People want to be here, and you know, sports is a big part of what we're doing here. You know, the academics is obviously what we do in school, but sports, that's what your kids are going to remember. My daughter, again, they beat Shen at Shen's homecoming. You know, she's not going to remember that new computer that they put in front of her. She's not going to remember that biology. She's going to remember 20 years from now what her field hockey team did. It's very important to these students, and I think they deserve the best. And the cost, there is a cost, but that's why we came here. We're willing to spend a little extra. And what I saw up on that board is that if everybody that's paying for this, once a month, maybe pours themselves a cup of coffee in the kitchen instead of going out to Starbucks, we got this paid for. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Anne Marie Farrell, and I have a child at Glenmont Elementary, and I'll have a kindergartner next fall. And I'm not ready to talk about the athletic fields at the high school, but I want to talk about the athletic fields at Glenmont Elementary, otherwise known as their playground. And I want to say that I truly appreciate that you put in the grounds project the possibility of updating the playgrounds. You know, our children, our youngest children, are faced with some pretty big demands at school these days. And I think having an opportunity to be outside, to get some fresh air, to play, be physical, and be in a safe environment is so important to our children today. So I think it's a really important part of this project. While it's not part of the high school, I think it's something you really need to keep considering. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Amy Scharf. I'm also a Glenmont Elementary parent and a member, president of the Glenmont PTA. And I just wanted to echo what Anne Marie said. I can't help but think the health and safety of our children is paramount here at Bethlehem. And we're in a situation at Glenmont where the structure is really physically falling apart. There's warning tape on the playground structure that students are going over, getting their foot stuck in. There's bees on our playground. There's equipment that is broken. This is a playground that was donated by the community around 20 years ago. The funding mechanism was self-funded by fundraising, and we donated it to Bethlehem Central. Certainly the funding project here would be a wonderful start for us. The Glenmont PTA, as well as our school community, recognizes that we would still need to do some funding, but this would be a huge step, as Anne Marie said, to get the students that use it every day. And right now we're in a situation where it's really a critical situation that we cannot have the students be there because it's just not to where it should be. So again, I'm hoping more elementary parents would come out tonight. Quite honestly, I have a 4th grader and I might not see it to fruition, but I know that the safety and health of the children in Bethlehem are worth it, and we're willing to put some time and effort to fundraise and to get this project done because it means so much to our children and to the district. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Dan Zonka. I'm a parent in the district, and I have 5 kids, 1 who has gone through, 4 who are currently in the system, and 3 of them will probably see the benefit of what we're speaking about tonight. And I'm listening to the comments made by the other speakers, and what I'm seeing is over the past budgets and bond issuances, there's been a complete imbalance when you look at spending for academics versus athletics. Somebody stated our facilities are not embarrassing. Like Mr. Sika, Mr. Morelli, I've traveled around the state with AAU and other sports. Our facilities are horrible. They've deteriorated to the point where the track is disintegrating. Our rims are rusted in our gym. We have inadequate lighting. Our scoreboards don't even work. It's embarrassing. And I think what everybody is saying is, just like nobody is sitting up here tonight with an Apple computer from 1983, we shouldn't have athletic facilities in this shape. They need to be upgraded, and I fully and wholly support spending an extra $36 on a $250,000 assessment. And if it doesn't pass, there's really something wrong with the way we view athletics in this town, because it is a complete package. Academics and athletics at the high school breed pride, especially when you already are number 1 academically. You should strive to be number 1 athletically, and that hasn't been happening. And it's sad, because we got a lot of great athletes and a lot of great kids that deserve it now and in the future. Thank you.
Before the ticker starts going, I'd like a little clarification before my 2 minutes start. Superintendent Douglas. My name is Jim Ciccone. I'm a lifelong resident in the town of Bethlehem. I have 3 kids that go through the school. One's a senior. On the athletic portion, or the grounds, which include playgrounds, that's vital to the elementary schools. That's around 3.3 million. That's a full ball of wax for the big multi-purpose field, bleachers. That's with the grounds, 3.6. I can't read the bottom number. So roughly 5 million total, 4.9. So out of $12 for 5 million, that portion for the athletics would be roughly $10. And out of that $10, we need to do drainage improvements anyway, which is $1 million. So the difference between getting what we need to be done and the full ball wax is $5 or $6. Okay, well now you can start the 2-minute ticker. So we're talking $6 in this great community that has tremendous academics recognized around the state. Like someone said, who's spearheading the athletics? Where's those IT people saying we need this and we need that? I think it's a small price to pay in our community when a $250,000 home, our taxes are $4,000 or $5,000. They're going to go up $100 to keep up with the basic things anyway, so why can't they go up a little bit more to make a balance with our great academics with great facilities? Our facilities are good inside for the most part, but our fields are behind. A little joke we have in the concession stand is maybe we need to sell tweezers. This is for the main gym because of splinters people get when they sit on them. Well, in any event, I fully support spending it all. As a business person and looking out of the state and like the buffet might not always be there, especially when the governor in the state introduced tax caps. The amount of aid or bonding, we had one lady I believe she's over here, talks about Mahonison puts a bond out every few years because they know it's a good way to get specific things done. It also said it can help with the bond ratings. So with the everyone else, the tax cap there, more and more schools are going to apply for state aid, and that well may dry or diminish. So I also reiterated last year that Mike Leonard is the athletic director of Columbia High School. He said he'd come in and talk to the board at any time, or any board member could talk to him to tell him some of the positive benefits. Some of them are they save money every year, they generate revenue, it increases school pride, morale, better to feel where they go, take advantage of state aid while it's there, physical education training, they can be outside more periods of the day in inclement weather. Later on, I got another letter another gentleman got who used to be the Senate Finance Committee Deputy Commissioner, where he put some more things on the great cost of bonding and some more hard numbers. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Karen Kissinger. I have a kid at the high school and one at the middle school. I moved to this district because of the educational programs and the high-quality staff. I didn't care at all about the athletics. My kids are athletes, and I would rather have a shabby field than have our kids in buildings that have bricks that are at risk of falling off, sidewalks that are in disrepair, and elementary schools that have playgrounds that aren't safe. At the last meeting, I think many of you were there, it seemed like the majority spoke up to say they wanted less than the $15 million bond. Many people felt that if the bond combined the athletic fields and the other, perhaps more important to some, improvements, the whole thing would go down. So many people were urging to keep it separate so at least we could do the repairs to the building and the technology upgrades. Most supported the general facility work, but there were some very outspoken people who were very much against the fields and the athletic facility work. I also think if we have this large bond, it puts the school budget at risk because people will add together the $5 or $7 or $10 for the bond to their overall budget increase for the general school budget. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Pam Davis-Allen. I have a child currently at Glenmont Elementary School, and I will have another one coming through Glenmont Elementary School. I generally support the Glenmont Elementary School projects on the 2011 5-year Capital Facility Plan project listing, and I'm continuing to review and learn more about the overall facility package plan. I'm here tonight to advocate for the Glenmont Elementary School playground, which is number 5 on the 2012 grounds project list, and we thank you for that. While the playground may look inviting from a distance, you've heard tonight that there's some serious structural deficiencies and hazards that pose safety risks to the children at Glenmont. I brought some pictures, which you won't be able to see. I'll bring them up and leave them for you, but there's caution tape, there are broken components on the playground, standing water, drainage issues, bees on the playground from wood that is deteriorating. These are issues that really need to be addressed and just serious deficiencies. A playground is critical for elementary school children to develop interpersonal relationships, get exercise, learn new skills, and just have fun. A school playground is also a community asset that can be enjoyed by families throughout the year. Please continue to support funding for the Glenmont Elementary School playground. Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Joe Murphy, and I have 3 children in the district. One's graduated, one's a senior, and one's a junior. As someone said before, we moved here from Albany for academics and athletics, both. And my children have excelled at both here in Bethlehem. We've been very, very happy with what we've had here. But we have seen the facilities are less than stellar. Our gym, my daughters play basketball. Our gym is archaic. The bleachers are ancient. The lighting is horrific. I was just at a volleyball game. You could hardly see the game. I feel that that runs through all of our athletic facilities here. I think all the things on this list that we see here, including the Glenmont playgrounds, the roofs that are leaking, the facades that are falling down, everything that's going on structurally, all need to be addressed. For this entire program, we're talking $36 for a $250,000 home. I moved here 9 years ago, and in that 9 years, I have supported immense increases in my school taxes and my property taxes to support academics in this community, which I feel very strongly for. But we're talking hundreds, $200, $300 a year that we've been increased since I started here 9 years ago. I think that this budget, including the athletic fields, is something our children deserve. My children deserve. My children will be done with school, and I'm still going to be in this community. I'm still willing to pay it. I'm heavily involved in younger athletics with the girls' basketball program, and I think those players, I was with Pop Warner, and I think all the people in our facilities need this updated facilities so that they can excel in athletics. I would think that 50 to 70% or even higher of our children are involved in athletics in Bethlehem. And I think that they really deserve to have the best facilities available. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Kathleen Kelmer. I'm a parent of 2 high school students, and I'm also the chair of the Tennis Booster Club. First of all, I wanted to commend the football and track boosters for all their efforts in presenting the long overdue improvements to our sports facilities. They've done a really great job. I was actually pleased tonight that tennis courts finally made it onto the list. A lot of our sports facilities issues, as has been brought up, is all related to drainage issues. That's why the football field's always underwater. That's why the track has been cracked. That's why the tennis courts are buckled, and we have a pond on court 1 often after a rainfall. We have some excellent teams at Bethlehem. The girls' tennis varsity team just won the Suburban Council title. The boys' team won last spring. They have a long history of success, and I think not only those teams, all teams deserve some improvements in our facilities that would be on par with the rest of the schools in our district. So I hope the community also supports those improvements, and thank you for your time.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Philip Ferrara. I have 2 wonderful children in your school district. Lab school's done phenomenal for them, and my daughter's done unbelievably well. With that said, and looking around to all of us and seeing what we're striving for, and looking at other districts, and me myself being from Albany, moving into Bethlehem, and one of the reasons I chose this area over Shenendahowa and Shaker and so forth, it was due to the academic programs that they had. It was up to par at the time when I moved in about 9-10 years ago. And looking around and going to other sporting events and seeing fields that are top-notch, basketball courts and hoops that are painted, bleachers that are accessible to the elderly and family members to come and look and be proud to see their children, grandchildren, and family members doing the same thing as they did when they were younger. I'm all for the athletic end. For something under $100 for the tax amount is nothing compared to what we've strived for everything else for the school district, for the educational level. I am all for it. I think that it'll be a future that Bethlehem will look much better for other people to come into and look at it as a possibility of moving in here over the other areas of the district. So with that said and done, I am all for it, and I hope we all do make the right choice for our family and our friends from the playground so they can play and enjoy the beautiful air that we have for them also, all the way through to the high school. Thank you.
I had to get this mic, so I'm used tonight. My name's John Barrett. I have 4 children in the school district, actually 3 graduates, and I have a sophomore currently here. I firmly am in favor of the full project. I think the time is right. All the pieces are here at this point in time. Interest rates, they're not going to get better. I saw 5% up there in the model. You know, you're probably looking at mid-3s to 4 for an interest rate. So the time is right. Who knows what's going to happen with state aid? The window is closing. I think we need to do it now. We need to make an investment. We can keep pushing it out. It's going to get you. One of these days, they're coming to get you, so it needs to be done.
My name is Scott Bonanno. Can I get a few minutes before, like Jim did? Just kidding. I have 2 children in the district. One will never see the light of day of any of these improvements. But it really doesn't matter. I do a lot of stuff when my son's not involved. My daughter's in middle school. She may see some of this if it gets around to it. Obviously, we're here for academics. That is the principal function of any school district. But I don't think you can look at academics alone when you look at these kids. With the worldwide epidemic of obesity, anything you can do to focus on keeping kids active and keeping them involved in sports on any level is critical. So I won't go down that diatribe. I deal with diabetes every day. It's my life. And it's not a fun place to be. But it's not fun to go out in other communities and see the level of, for lack of a better term, beautiful facilities that they have and come back here and have to stomach really sub-poor, sub-Bethlehem quality, frankly. We pay a lot in taxes. I wanted to bring up one question on your initial survey. The district has lost revenue by having to lose home games. We've had to move games to other facilities, losing gate revenue. That's not money that comes back to a booster club. That goes in the general fund. We've had to pay for buses to get those kids get there. And on top of it, senior night was held on another facility, so there were very few kids that got to enjoy that other than the kids on the field. So I have just a couple more quick comments. I'm going to run out of time, so maybe I'll come back later. But it seems to be boiling down to needs and wants. I think it's pretty simple. The plan A is the needs. That would have to be done to keep our facilities at least safe. So the difference between the needs and the wants is roughly $2.4 million. When you boil that down to the numbers, it's about $6. 2 cups of coffee at Dunkin' Donuts, 1 at Starbucks. Is that really worth sacrificing, you know, the future of some of these kids if they get hurt? Or, you know, the civic pride that comes along with having new facilities. And I don't want to abuse my time, so I will stay away and give some other people an opportunity to comment. But thank you.
My name is Wanda Martin, and unlike the rest of you, I do not have any children in school right now. My daughter's graduated. She never went here. She went to a Catholic high school. I'm going to say things you don't want to hear. First of all, me and my husband are retired. We do not drink Starbucks coffee. We do not have internet. We do not have cable TV. We live very frugally. Taxes in this school district keep going up and going up and going up. We closed a good school, and we're busing kids further now to a brand new elementary school we just built. That money could have went for the repairs that we're looking at now if we had spent our money more wisely. I hear a lot. I'm in the wrong crowd tonight. Athletics. I love athletics. My daughter was a real athlete. She's an athlete now. She's in the Air Force, and I cannot tell you what she does, but I'm very proud of her. I feel that now we're busing these kids further to Del Mar, more miles put on our buses. Should we have done the repairs first before we went to all this big expense? Athletes are great. People in here are concerned about the turf and concerned about whether it's safe, not safe. Maybe you've never heard of a woman named Joan Van Erck. Let me tell you about her. She's leaving her New York State Public High School Athletic Association job in Latham to go to a Section 8 office in Nassau. Now, her job was to oversee all these athletic programs and make sure safety was met in all of our high schools in New York State. Her new job is paying her $150,000 a year, and she's being made whole for her pension benefits that she's going to forfeit by ending her job here. That results in a $740,000 retirement and deferred compensation payout, a $217,778 non-taxable benefit package, and a base salary of $144,677. This is according to the IRS. This is, I hear it a lot, this is for the children. This is always for the children. But it's not always for the children. Half of our school taxes go to teachers' retirements and health care benefits that they get extra. That's a great job. I mean, I know there's some teachers that don't make a lot of money. One teacher was quoted in the Times Union this week as saying the 2% taxing cap is hurting her way, you know, she can't hardly make a living. That might be. But what about the elderly lady that can't afford these taxes and might have to leave her home? Drive through Delmar, drive through Bethlehem, drive through the town of New Scotland, you see for sale signs all over the place. There is a solution to this if he doesn't give me the 15-second sign. I feel that, oh, he did, I still have 15 seconds? I feel school taxes should be based on income. That is the way everyone plays their fair share, including people living in Delmar in $500,000 homes. You base it on income, that elderly lady doesn't have to worry about her school taxes anymore. Let the state take over these public schools, let them pay their fair share, and let us do our school taxes on an income base, not a property tax. Me and my husband bought our house for $60,000. They say it's worth a certain amount now, but we can't afford those taxes. Maybe I will. I'm sorry if I offended anybody, but my situation is different.
My name is Dan Robeson, and I have 2 children in the district. My son, Danny, is a junior, and he's a football player and really enjoys his athletics, his sports. And my daughter is in 7th grade. I work in higher education. I'm the Dean of the School of Management at Russell Sage and the Sage Colleges. So I appreciate academic achievement. I have to say bravo to the board in their achievements academically for this high school, for this district. But I think we're unbalanced. I do believe that the condition of some of the fields that we have our athletic events on are atrocious. And I guess I didn't have too much of a negative opinion on this until a couple of weeks ago when my son was badly injured during the football game against CBA in front of the home bench in a swamp, a mud puddle of a field. If you ask him, he will say that this would not have happened on a field that was in better condition or a turf field. There's a cost to that. We're looking at an operation in the next week. It's going to take him about 6 months or so to recover from a torn ACL in his right knee. And, you know, I don't think he deserves that. I understand football is a sport that, you know, you'll have injuries, I really do. But that surface on that field was substandard that night, that rainy night. And I believe that we need to invest in that part of our portfolio. We are doing a great job in academics, but let's balance it out. And I, for one, am willing to support that and pay the tax. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Tanya Choppy. I have 2 children in the elementary school. My son plays Pop Warner football. My daughter cheers for Pop Warner, so I am into the athletics as well as academics. I have a question. Has any thought been given to selling the Clarksville building? It will never reopen as a school. I think we just all need to figure that out. That could maybe alleviate some of the interest we're paying on the original bond from 2003. I think it's important that the facilities, athletic and building-wise, are kept up to par so that our children are safe and we do what is needed, not necessarily what we want. I want a house in the Hamptons. It's not going to happen, okay? We need to look at what we need to keep our children safe. I'm all for doing what we need. The synthetic turf, I think, is the wrong road to go down. I agree with Karen in that I think if you do that and you raise the taxes, the $36 on a $250,000 home, that then our academic budget is going to fall. And when our academic budget falls, what's the first thing we cut? Sports. So then what happens? We have this beautiful turf field and no sport to play on it. We'd have no team to play on it. So do what we need. We need to stop trying to keep up with the Joneses. We pay enough in taxes. They're already talking about raising Albany County tax 9%, so that goes onto our bill. And every little bit, it was, you know, $12 last year. It was $15 the year before. This year, you're looking at $36, and you're not even touching the academics. So please, do what is needed. Keep our children safe. Don't go overboard. We don't need the Cadillac of everything. As long as our kids are educated and they can have fun, I think that should suffice.
Oh.
I'm Mike DeAngelis. As a parent here, I'm a lifelong resident, Bethlehem Central. Most people don't remember, but 40 years ago, 35 years ago, the varsity football games were played at the middle school. This is probably the best field in the Capital District. The high school field here was crap in 1975, and it's still crap. I have a daughter who is a freshman at UVM right now. She played field hockey. She missed her senior night last year because of the weather. I have a son who is involved in a fantastic music program here. Let's face it, Bethlehem's got the best academics. We have the best music program in the area. I came to see my daughters play last year in this very room, only to find out that she was in a new theater that was right across the hall here, a small theater that was very, very nice. I think we have the best of about everything, but you know, use football as an analogy. We got a great defense, we got a great offense. Now we got to kick it up a notch and get some special teams, and we got to fix our athletic facilities to bring them up to par, so that I know every student on my team at the middle school has an iPad to use. In 6th grade, it's time to level the playing field, so to speak, and bring our athletic facilities up to where everything else is here at Bethlehem Central. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Aline Fitzpatrick. I'm a parent of 4 children. One graduated last year. I have one at the high school, one at the middle school, and I have one at Glenmont Elementary School. I have to say that I support the entire project. I've had experience, obviously, both at the elementary school and through the high school, but my kids have played sports. I think we should look into the idea of the turf field being a revenue-generating possibility for future events. I resent every year going to Colony for the soccer sectional games and paying $30 for my family to visit for one game. I think that it could be, hosting sectionals could be beneficial to the school district as well as to the community at large financially. So I think that's something we need to consider rather than just saying we want it because we want it or we want it to keep up with other school districts. I think we need to be competitive, and I think it would be a financial benefit if that were the case. Last year for the first sectional game for varsity soccer, my son and his teammates shoveled the field, the varsity soccer field, because it was not playable, and the football field was not playable either. So certainly there's an advantage to having the turf field. I think it's not a huge amount of money, and I think that the financial aspects of potential revenue generating should be highlighted further. Thank you.
My name is Rick Leach, and I'm a parent in the district. I'm also a high school English teacher. I'm also the varsity football coach, and my wife teaches 4th grade, so I think it's safe to say that I'm entrenched here, and this district means a lot to me. I think the biggest mistake that we're making here tonight is separating academics from athletics. I hear that quite often. Education is education. Whether education happens on the stage, whether it happens on the football field, whether it happens in a classroom or in a lab, there are many different ways and many different places that kids learn. And in any of these places, they deserve the best facilities, the best technology, the best everything. And that's what I want for my kids. That's what I want for the kids that I teach and coach. and my own children. So I think for $36 or whatever it may cost, even if it's more than that, I think my kids and the kids of our community are well worth it.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Ben Comtois. I am a parent and a graduate of BC. I graduated in '93. I played baseball here. I played one high school game here. That's how bad the fields were then. They haven't improved. My son's in 11th grade. He plays football. He will never see any of this. But for the future, I think a lot of kids will get benefit out of it. A lot of people haven't said, but a lot of kids could get scholarships to college through sports as well. So I think it'll help benefit in the long run through them being able to go and getting more assistance in college, because it is a big thing in the debate of kids coming out with so much debt that maybe we can help even a couple kids with a little bit of extra that we could give to them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Craig Corbett. I have 2 kids in the district. They may benefit from these fields, except for the fact they don't play those sports. But I do feel that academics and athletics should be together. You learn a lot of things in the athletic fields of how to handle situations you're going to get further in life. And having good fields is going to make more kids want to play that, and it gives them an activity to do. My question is, if they're not going to have good fields, what are they going to do with their time? Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jennifer DeFranco, and I have 2 children in the district. One who has played lacrosse for several years and who hopes to do tennis. I have a question off the top. The synthetic turf has a useful life of 10 years approximately, but it is, I believe, going to be put in a 20-year bond. Is that correct?
You want to get that, Tom?
Right now, what happens is, if I believe I can speak from memory from some of the architects that I've talked to, as well as one of my past experience from a school district where we put in a turf. Most turfs have a warranty life of about 8 to 10 years, depending on the turf. They have what's considered a useful life, and that's always difficult to gauge. Different types of turf have different types of useful life. The turf, say, that we put in when I was the principal at Central Square had an 8-year warranty life field. If you regularly maintain that field every year, doing your absorption tests and making sure it's safe, and so that when you hit it, it has so much flexibility in it. That field was predicted only to last roughly 15 years. New York State has a rule. They will only aid something if it reaches 15 years in a turf. That doesn't mean that the warranty stops that clock, so to speak. The turf that we put in Central Square is on, I think, year 11 right now, and just because I still have some connections there. They've regularly maintained it. It's starting to show its first signs of wear now, 10 years, when it probably should have showed them before. But I believe that's probably because people have taken care of it. It's projected that it will go well beyond the 15-year period. So it depends. I mean, I can't give you that crystal ball answer, but if you take care of a product, they do go well beyond. Just like we have a roof that could be a 10-year warranted roof. That roof, even here, could be 10, 15, 20, 25 years, depending on how you've cared for it, how you've repaired it. But when you finance something, no matter what, the state's going to hold you to that 15-year period. The 20-year period that you're seeing is that some roofs would be financed out over 30 years, correct, Ms. Kehoe? And so what that 20 is an average of all the projects within that it would be roughly a 20-year finance period. So there's certain things that you might only finance for 3 to 5 years. There's certain things that you might finance for 30. That's the average, so that's how that plays.
Okay.
So hopefully I've answered your question.
Right. My concern was that the synthetic turf would wear out and need to be replaced in 10 years, and yet we would still be paying for it in a bond issue for an additional 10 more. And that will not be the case.
I can only tell you that if I was putting something in place, I know as well as Ms. Kehoe or Mr. Nolte, as well as the board, ours is going to be always to get the maximum usefulness out of anything. Just like if I can only say just because of that field I know very well. If I could put that field here, I know now, even from experience, that field's probably going to last as long as you do due diligence, the required amount plus some. And if you only expect it to last 15 years, one of the smartest things any superintendent, and sometimes we get it wrong across the state, and there are many superintendents and boards that have not. They have not prepared for when they have to replace that field. If it passes that 15-year mark, the state has said that it will provide building aid on those type of replacements. Even if, from what I understand, if the golden turf parachute goes away, that's now a regular asset of the state. So they will upkeep that asset.
That was my second
Right.
question. There's a carrying cost going forward
Right.
for a synthetic turf, and
Yeah.
it will not be entirely on Bethlehem's back.
Correct. If I can use Schenectady right now, if what we know is true, that they have saved roughly in 4 years, roughly about $300,000 that they've put aside for that time when they do have to replace the field, if they continued that trend over the next 15 years, they would have $900,000 in the bank. Their field costs $700,000. Now, they probably wouldn't spend it all on the field, but what they'd do is they'd use that, at least if I was a superintendent, I would recommend using out of your reserve, or whatever you've set it aside for, to use the money that would be the unaidable portion so that you also get your building aid back, which is less burden on the local taxpayers. Okay. So it's really good financial planning, and that's what this board, as well as I know my administration, are trying to do on the academic side with our budgets, because I know that's come up. Now we're also trying to look at the facility aspect, and we already have an outstanding academic piece, and there's still room to always improve or expand on that. So this is sort of a three-part position.
Okay. And my second is just a comment. My son has started to play tennis, and we do a lot of lessons around the Capital District. And we even go into the city of Albany for better tennis courts than are found at our high school. So I hope that we can improve the tennis courts here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Kevin Fuskis. I'm probably the last person to go, it looks like. Yeah, my wife and I have 2 children over at Eagle Elementary, so we're coming up through the system. And I just want to let you know we are in strong support of the whole package. There may be a line item or two that can be deferred, but there's a lot of line items on here that have been deferred for a decade. Academics, athletics are just 2 of the facets of the individual character of our young people that we're trying to build. And I know that's a holistic view, but also IT infrastructure is very important, less seen than in athletics or some of the other facilities. But building safety is very important. So there's a lot of components that go into building character for our young people, and that really is, in a way, what it boils down to. Also, to use another sports analogy and paraphrase an old movie, if you build it, they will come. In a way, our family and many others here, and certainly not everybody, have come. Now we need to build it and maintain it. Point being, you can't utilize facilities that you don't have. If we do have good facilities, not only will this school district use it but many others will now come here to play games, to utilize our athletic facilities, but also the educational facilities as well. So thank you for everything you do.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that has?
Hi, my name is Pete DeVries, and I'm a parent of a daughter that runs track in the high school. First, I want to commend the board for taking on this whole project. I remember back in the spring when Dr. Douglas asked for a volunteer to raise their hand to shepherd this through, and it wasn't easy to get that, and you guys have gone way beyond that to have all the hearings, all the meetings, and really put a lot of thoughtful time into this and brought the community involvement up to the maximum level. I really want to commend you for that. I know that I'm on the booster club of the track and field and cross country, and that's about 600 participants a year. So of the about 1,700 athletic participations, that's 35%, a good, very good core of that. And besides, they're all using the track. And besides those people, there's football teams, the other teams are out there working on the track virtually every day. It was brought out in the spring that last fall during the wet weather, some PE classes only got outside 5 times in the whole half year. They were basically gym bound. It was also pointed out that had we had a turf field, that teaching station would have been available to all those classes every day. That's really a significant benefit. Lastly, I'm going to point out that when Dr. Douglas came to this school, one of the comments he made was he couldn't see where they had spent $44 million in this facility. I can tell you that if you put the full project out with the turf field, you will see a gem out in the back there. It looks beautiful because I've been around to a lot of other ones. I'm in full favor of the full project, and for the difference of $6 or whatever it is, $24 total a year, please go for it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Thomas Douglas Inkpen. I am a senior citizen, longtime resident of Bethlehem. Son went through this school district. I think the turf field is a want too far. I think that you're going to have a hard time selling it in this community to many senior citizens who are not here and who will be out to vote. It was my sense when we had the meeting a few weeks ago that there were many people who came out and spoke against a turf field. I don't see them here tonight, but I think they're still going to come out and vote against it. I would hope that the district would put it up as 2 separate propositions. Certainly, we need a lot of things done here in the school district. We need good drainage. I don't know that we need a turf field, and I would not be in support of that. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that wanted to speak that has not spoken yet? You may. Hey, can you just go to use the microphone, please, because I can't hear what you're saying.
I know everybody in this room probably hates me by now, but because of the field being so wet and bad drainage and stuff, and they can't do their activities when they want to, I hate to keep saying this point, but I went to McCluskey. McCluskey never had a football field because it was built on a dump. We always had to go to Bleecker Stadium for our games. Do you know how old Bleecker Stadium is? We still go there for our games. It's Bishop McGinn today. They still go to that field, sit on concrete bleachers that are so cold, I bring a little hot seat for myself. Holy Names, they don't have a track field. Those girls run down New Scotland Avenue in the rain, in the snow, and in the sleet. And they run down and they go run back to the school. Is it safe? No. Has anybody ever gotten hurt? No, because they're careful. There's supervision. One man said, build it and they will come. Will it make our taxes go down? I never see our taxes go down, ever. I love this school. I love my community. We have to be practical. Financial-wise, people aren't in good shape right now, especially senior citizens. And we have to take that into account. I don't like to see senior citizens have to leave their home. I came here to the last school budget, and I held the door open for a lady with a walker coming in who was in tears, and I asked her if she was okay, and she said, yes, I just hope this budget doesn't pay us. I can't afford it. That was just one person. I'm sure there's many more. That's all I have to say, and I'm sorry if I made people mad, but plus I think our kids are a little spoiled too. Very spoiled. Thank you. Yep.
I'm still Brian McKenna, 2 kids. I think we're missing the boat a little bit tonight. I think that there are too many folks that are talking about kind of this either-or thing, and not just about academics or athletics. If you look at our website, it says Bethlehem's known for its tradition of excellence. It talks about attracting families since 1930. The things we're debating, some of these things tonight shouldn't even be on the table. Things like safe playgrounds. I taught at Glenmont 20 years ago. I was part of the group that helped volunteer to put that playground in. I can't imagine we're sitting here talking about these things. When I hear about, when I see people getting hurt on the football field, when I think about the fact that what we're talking about today, in my mind, these aren't wants too far. These are things that we're going to have to pay for eventually. If there's available aid that's going to eventually be depleted, we need to strike while iron's hot. We can get our arms around the fact that this is an increase. I get that. But taxes in the world, unfortunately, they don't go down. That's not real life. Our children, our community needs to follow the example and the message that was created 80 some odd years ago of excellence. What we're hearing about tonight, these items don't belong in front of the board. They belong in a plan that the superintendent's created where we never reach levels this low that it requires this much attention and remediation.
Thank you.
My name is John Anastasi. I grew up in this town. I have 2 children in the school district here. My son's in high school. My daughter's in the middle school. I'm not going to go into a long dissertation because I came in late and I don't want to be redundant here. So I just want you to know I am in favor of this. I was at the game when young Dan Roberson threw his knee out, running down the sideline. There is a problem with the field. We all know it. I've been to a lot of other schools here. I'm also involved with Pop Warner. I've been to a lot of other schools, and it is a little embarrassing, to be honest with you. It's a little embarrassing when I'd like to have games here at the high school for all the little kids. They start at 5 years old and go up to 14, 15. For example, this weekend coming up, we were going to try to play games at the high school. It was a go, and then the last minute, I hear we can't go there Saturday or Sunday now because of I'm sorry. Because they don't want the field to get torn up. Now we're talking about 5-year-old little kids here who are dying to get on the high school football field. Okay. I won't go on, but I feel if we don't do it now, we're never going to do it, and we should have it here for our kids. So, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Steve Morelli again. For some reason, I like to follow Brian and play off his comments, but in all seriousness, there was a comment earlier in the evening about if you drive around town, there's a lot of homes for sale, and that's the reality of the economy that we're living in today. Brian hit on a very important point, and that's the tradition of excellence. And I guess the point that I want to kind of close on here on my second time at the mic is I think we do ourselves a disservice if we position ourselves as the place that used to be where everybody wanted to go. I would hate to see us put ourselves in a position with homes on the market for whatever reason, downsizing, relocating, moving for a job, whatever the point might be, where potential home buyers say, where are you going to move? Well, I think I'm looking at Guilderland or Averill Park or Shen or one of the other communities. Well, how about Bethlehem? Well, that used to be the place everybody wanted to go, but it's really not that anymore. We've had a long tradition of excellence, a phenomenal reputation, and I think we really, again, to reiterate my earlier points, have to bring the entire package of academics and athletics to continue to put ourselves in a position as the preeminent community in this region. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jim Giacone, second time up. Tim Manisha is the gentleman I was talking about earlier. He's at senior night with his daughter. He was used to be deputy commissioner, head of finance for the Senate. And he wrote a letter to the board, but in it talks about the great bond rates and doesn't look for certain maybe the aid will be there. You know, he's a guy that's been around. You guys, I think he sent you guys a letter so you can read it on your own. And I don't really want to bore it, but I know from a little banking that rates are at historic lows, and I also believe that the 5% is probably a little high. You can ask Ms. Kehoe if 5% is that an actual rate or may be a little bit lower.
That's a very conservative rate. If we were to go to market today, it would probably be closer to 3%.
So, you know, in simple math, you know, when you do a mortgage, the rate, refinance, if it's a % different over a little bit of time, that certainly comes into play. You know, just doing some more math, I look at these new energy savings that I wasn't aware of, and that was $4 million. Was that close to $4 million? $4.5 million. So we look at lower rates, interest rates lower, and then energy savings in this package. Does that mean the whole package might be only $12 million at a lower rate, and we're looking not even at $36, but a lower number, like lower than 36?
Of course, the screen goes off at the same time. If I get it right, Mr. Chacon, is that if hypothetically, I don't know the exact numbers of what all three add up to, but say it's $15 million. If the board opted, as well as even the community, if they were gracious enough to vote through the energy performance part of this, which would be about $4.5 million, then the only part that would be on sort of the tax side would be roughly $10.5 million of that. You would be close to the 24, 25 for $200,000 per year.
And that would be figured at 5% interest.
And that's roughly 5%.
So we can make an assumption if we got it at bond market, which has been holding relatively steady the last 3 or 4 years, that that number could go down $4 or $5. Is that a good assumption?
I would turn to my colleague on the other side.
It would go down a few dollars.
It is possible that it would be lower. We tried to put very conservative estimates up there because we want people to make a decision being fully informed as to what it is that we're putting up there. So.
Yeah. Plus, additionally, we also want to make sure that we remind everybody, these are numbers from 2 years ago.
Okay.
So although tonight is talking about those numbers, the board, if they choose to go forward, would have to now show the community that this is what we're talking about. Once we have our architect, then revisit it as well again before any project comes to any ounce of completion to be considered by the board.
Okay, then I guess I would just ask the board to consider it. No time's a good time, and now is the best time with many reasons. Construction cost bids are lower when the economy is low. You talk to any construction worker, they're more favorable. Turf prices are lower. Another part of the turf, I've talked to the turf, I talked to Mike Leonard at the AD at East Greenbush Columbia High School, and one nice thing is when the carpet gets replaced, it's not $1 million to replace it, it's a fraction of the cost, $300,000, so it's not you're not putting in all the drainage. Balance our quality education with quality infrastructure for athletics. Can increase real estate values, and it's a great investment for the community at large and a great investment in our kids. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just have, my name's John Anastasi. I was just up here a minute ago. Two quick points. One, there are a lot of for sale signs, but there's also a lot more sold signs coming in here. Bethlehem's population, there are a lot. I grew up in this town. My mother, she's 92. She moved out of her house. She's just coming back. There's a lot of elderly people here, and they are moving out. But with all the new sold signs, we have a lot of younger people coming in with kids going to our schools. So, you know, we should still try to do these improvements for the future, okay? We can't fix the past, but we can fix the future, help fix the future. As to Clarksville, I heard a couple of people talking about Clarksville, and, you know, I heard it was going to go into mothballs, then the sheriffs were going to go out there and all this. Whatever happens, if it doesn't work out, I think we really need to look into making it a BOCES or a tech school for our kids, okay? Because there's a lot of kids that go to college, they come out in debt, they can't find jobs in their field, and I'm a contractor. My father was a builder. I'm a second-generation builder. There's no kids filling the trades anymore, so I think we need to look into that a little bit and put Clarksville to use to make revenue for us. Thank you.
It's Scott Bonanno again. First, I just wanted to get to the numbers that were over there. So if we're talking about $24 potentially, if the energy efficiencies go into play, you really, I mean, I look at my taxes 10 years ago versus what they are now. I can tell you they've gone up a lot more than $24 a year. And I really don't have any more to show for it. I still have to pay for garbage removal. I still have to pay for all the other things I pay for. But for this $24, we would have something to show for it. So there's some signatures here for people who couldn't make it tonight. Some are at the soccer games, whether it's the boys or girls. So I don't want you to look at the empty seats as the fact that the community is not behind something like this. There's always going to be some people that are for it and some people that are against it. You know, and it's not going to be financially easy for everybody. But I don't think that's a huge amount of money to be spending to get something that you will walk in and see. You know, nobody likes to spend money on their car, but they do it because they have to. Certain things you have to do. You have to spend money on your community today to make it last longer. The other thing I wanted to say was I've talked to, and many of the people here have talked to school employees, whether support staff or teachers, administrators, and the vast majority, and when I say vast majority, I would say greater than 85% of those folks privately support the full athletic upgrades. They can't publicly come out and say it because it would put them in a tough spot, but they privately very much would like to see this happen because it is a matter of school pride. And it is something that, everybody sees when they come to Bethlehem. And the last thing I'll say is something my father told me from the time I could walk, learn, and understand. And that is, if something is worth doing, it's worth doing right. So it's not something you want to cut corners on. It's not something that we want to save a few dollars for here. If you're going to do it, you need to put the investment in perspective and just do it now. Take advantage of the bond rates. Take advantage of, the fact that there is 70% of this money potentially coming from the whole pot and not just our pockets. Thank you very much. And again, the board, you guys don't get a lot of credit for many things, but you really deserve it. You've been very open and transparent in this whole process, and I just urge you to keep things going that way, and thank you for your efforts.
Thank you.
Chuck Class again. I'll be brief because I know everybody wants to get out of here. When I stood up before you, I mentioned that my three boys were athletes, okay, but they were student athletes. I misspoke, okay? I have one in law school, I have one pursuing his bachelor degree, and I have the one that's currently in school. He's a two-sport athlete, maintains a 90 average. I didn't want to give the impression that academics is not the most vital reason we're here, but athletics is too. And I don't want this to turn into, as we debate this as a community in the coming months, should you decide to put this bond up for a vote, that it's sports versus athletics. It's not. It's the total package. We have to understand that, okay? I don't want this, and I know it's going to turn into that. It's going to be, it's the athletes against the students. They're both. It's a combination. It's one big family here. We need to invest in that family. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Tom, did you want to say some closing remarks, or?
First of all, ladies and gentlemen, I want to commend you, because I also want to thank Bill DeVoe up here. You did much better than in the presidential debates at paying attention to those signs. So it was very nice to see. This is one of the reasons why Bethlehem is Bethlehem. There are people with different viewpoints, and we never look at anybody's viewpoint as being the wrong viewpoint. Everybody has that for a reason. And I want to commend you for at least listening and understanding that, because from the first night, I can tell you the boards sort of listened and heard the community at that, because it was very new, was about 50-50. There's trepidation out there. At the second night, it probably leaned a little bit more, which was favorable to the repairs and maintaining the district's infrastructure, but there was still some questions on the athletics part. Tonight is one other facet that helps the board gather information. Just like online, we have been live tweeting on Facebook, as well as our webcast. All of this is being put up for the community to see, and I hope you, as I've heard some comments tonight, appreciate that the board is trying to do its due diligence and not hide behind a cloak of secrecy, but to put it out there, to have the dialogues, to have the information going up, and then also answering as much as we can the questions that come forward. One of the things that's the hardest part about this is, no matter what, we've had 3 community forums, and in that time, additionally, 3 Board of Education meetings. The board members have been looking at every aspect and trying to find if there's ways to save for the district as well. No matter what, when it comes down to it, if the board chooses to go forward, that's only the choice. We always have to remember that in our democracy, no matter what, the guidance and the choice comes from the administration and the board. But just like our budget, the community actually is the only facet that makes the decision. And it's really the board's position to try to do what's in the best interest of the entire community in their concepts, and then allow the community to decide. So that's what this is about, and as we go forward from here, it will shift to our Board of Education meetings. The board will be entering into executive session next week to to interview professional services to garner more accurate and detailed information in regards to the costs. So that that way they do their due diligence before they even scope an overall project. Once that gets to that point, I think in our discussions, the board would shape that project with the professional services. And I know this board, with its transparency, would have another evening like this for public comment on whatever the board was considering before they even considered a final resolution that would bring any bond issue to a vote. That can happen going forward, but you need to know as an audience, a bond vote can only go after a resolution and after it's been published for a minimum of 45 days.